Again, I'm Cristina Finch with Amnesty International, which is a global movement of more than 2.8 million members worldwide, working to promote and defend human rights. We work to ensure that every person enjoys all of the human rights enshrined in the Universal Declaration of Human Rights and other international human rights standards. For 50 years, Amnesty International has been a watchdog for human rights globally. The UPR is a crucial component of that work, and the United States' participation in this process serves as a powerful rebuttal to the criticism that the human rights movement has a cultural or geographical bias or is not applicable to the United States. Amnesty also submitted a shadow report on the United States, and today I'd like to focus on a couple of the issues that are a priority for Amnesty. During the US's UPR, nearly 40 country interventions recommended that the US ratify human rights treaties. We were particularly pleased to see 25 recommendations regarding the Convention to Eliminate All Forms of Discrimination Against Women, or the CEDAW Treaty. In response to numerous recommendations urging the US to ratify the treaty, we were encouraged by the administration's expression of support for ratification. And of course, we'd also like to thank Senator Durbin for holding a hearing on the treaty in the last Congress, and Senator Boxer for her continuing leadership on this issue. And yet, despite this support, the United States remains one of only 7 countries in the world that has not ratified CEDAW. This puts us in the company of countries like Iran, Sudan, and Somalia. CEDAW is a landmark international agreement that affirms principles of fundamental human rights and equality for women around the world. And women around the world have used this treaty to claim their rights. They've used it to reduce sex trafficking and domestic abuse, provide access to education, ensure the right to vote, improve maternal health care, and end child marriage. Amnesty supports immediate ratification of CEDAW. Ratification would continue the US's proud bipartisan tradition of promoting and protecting human rights, and it would strengthen the US as a global leader on standing up for women and girls. The US UPR process also highlighted the US's shameful continuation of the death penalty. 23 countries intervened to ask the US to abolish this human rights violation, and 10 more asked us to at least limit the most egregious aspects, such as execution of the mentally ill. However, Amnesty was extremely disappointed to see that the US responded negatively to these recommendations and did not support the end of capital punishment. The US is increasingly an outlier on this issue. 2/3 of the countries in the world have now abolished the death penalty in either law or practice. Again, this leaves the US in the company of countries such as China, Iran, and Yemen as some of the most prolific users of the death penalty. The death penalty contravenes a variety of international standards, such as the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, which we discussed earlier. The US is, of course, a signatory, and the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights, which the US has ratified. And Amnesty recommends an imposition of a moratorium on executions with a view to abolishing the death penalty worldwide. Finally, we note that several of the countries made recommendations related to the human right to health. A key component of the right to health is the right of women not to die in childbirth. Amnesty recommends that a greater focus be placed on the reduction of maternal mortality and morbidity in the United States. In March of 2010, Amnesty released a report called Deadly Delivery, and it reveals the shocking statistics about the state of maternal health in the United States. The United States ranks 50th when it comes to maternal mortality. What that means in real terms is that 2 to 3 women in the United States die every day from pregnancy-related complications. And this just isn't a public health issue, it's a human rights crisis. What makes this a human rights crisis is that these deaths are preventable. As the head of the International OBGYN Association has said, women are dying of diseases that doctors don't know how to treat. They're dying because societies have yet to make the decision that their lives are worth saving. So we urge both the administration and Congress to take steps to end this crisis, and I'm pleased to announce that we've seen such a step. Last month, Representative Conyers of Michigan introduced the Maternal Health Accountability Act. The bill would provide grants to states to form maternal mortality review boards and issue recommendations to finally end this crisis. This legislation would help provide accountability, which is essential essential to effectively addressing the issue. And accountability is necessary not only to end maternal mortality, but for all of the human rights issues that we're discussing here today. We were pleased to see the U.S. join the Human Rights Council in 2009 and participate in the UPR process because it helps send a strong message that human rights don't just apply to other countries, they apply here in the United States as well. But improving the lives of Americans will take more than a comprehensive review of the United States human rights record. It's going to take the commitment of both President and Congress to implement change. So now, as we move from recommendations to reality, we're looking to Congress to help us bring human rights home.